It's almost!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So, a good performance from both teams here today.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. Right on the show today, South Africa create history by reaching the final, beating Australia for the very first time at a World Cup. Can they do what no other senior South African side has done before? Who can make this happen for the Proteas? Over in other news in cricket, will Shakib Al Hasan, the Bangladesh former captain, get the glorious farewell that he so wishes for? Fresh protests outside the Bangladesh Cricket Board have stopped him from flying into the country. Will he undertake the risk? And Formula One drivers will fight Verstappen to the finish on the grid, but on the sidelines, they are coming together to stand up to the FIA, the governing body, asking them not to school the drivers. This after FIA's clampdown on swearing. Drivers swear they cannot accept that. More on the show regarding these stories, but first a look at the headlines. Starting with cricket and the first test between India and New Zealand that's underway in Bengaluru. Rachin Ravindra's 134 helped the visitors post 402 in their first innings. Trailing by 356 runs, India came out to bat in the second session of the day. Virat Kohli became only the fourth Indian to surpass 9,000 test runs. And at the end of day's play, India are 231 for the loss of 3 wickets. Over in the second test between England and Pakistan, the home side bounced back after that embarrassing loss in that first test. And without the services of Babar Azam, Shaheen Shah Afridi and Naseem Shah, they registered a 152-run victory over England, winning a test at home after 1,348 long days. That's right, nearly 3 years. Noman Ali picked 8 wickets in the final innings to bundle England out for 144 runs as they were chasing 297 to win. Over in tennis, Rafael Nadal lost to world number 2 Carlos Alcaraz at the Six Kings Slam in Saudi Arabia. It's an exhibition game. Nadal fell 3-6, 3-6 to Alcaraz in straight sets at the event. Nadal will now face Novak Djokovic for the final time before the Spaniard hangs up his boots in November. All of this in that exhibition event. Over in women's cricket, the English Cricket Board has barred transgender players from top-tier domestic competitions. The rules will come into effect from 2025. The rule states any player who has gone through male puberty are not eligible for the top-tier games. The 100 women's tournament is also included in the list of competitions. Over in basketball, Los Angeles Lakers registered a 128-122 win over Phoenix Suns despite LeBron James' absence. Dalton Connect stole the show in the preseason showdown with a 35-point contribution. The shooting guard scored 20 consecutive points to hand Lakers a narrow win. And Russia's sports minister, Mikhail Dektarev, has called for a dialogue with the International Olympic Committee, or the IOC. This to try and improve relations between the IOC and Russia. Russia was banned from the 2024 Paris Olympics due to its invasion of Ukraine. This World Cup just keeps getting better. South Africa beat Australia for the first time in a World Cup to reach a final once again. They lost the World Cup final last year to Australia, so you can only imagine the nerves at the semi-final last night. But this South African side has established a whole new mindset in this campaign. They have redefined what it means to be a true South African champion side. I say South African and I don't specify South African women's national side because this team today has the chance to do what no other senior South African side have been able to achieve so far, win a World Cup. They came close last year before falling to the strongest side in women's cricket today, Australia. And why is this win over this Australian side that much more special? They beat the most dominant side in women's cricket and this World Cup. Sure, They didn't have Meg Lannon anymore. And yes, Alice Healy got injured during the tournament, but this Talia McGrath-led Aussie side was just as mean and confident as any you could encounter. No wonder, after that win, the emotional scenes alone were enough to make you realize how big this moment was for these women. Let's first look at the semi-final battle. South Africa did what they always do best, strike in the power play. They stifled the Australian lineup at the start, not letting some of their best score as freely as they could. Marizanne Kapp, how can we talk of South Africa cricket and not mention her? Leading the charge with the ball and the bat through this entire campaign, a star all-rounder, but imagine South Africa getting across that finish line without having to use her services with the bat. That total of 130 plus was not going to be a very intimidating one to defend. But South Africa followed that act by staying solid in their response with the bat. Laura Woolward led the way, playing a captain's knock, but it was not just her. Giving the skipper company was a player South Africa continued to persist with despite so many failures, continued to back at the all-important number 3 slot despite only managing to score a little over 100 runs in this entire tournament. I'm including the knock last night. Annika Bosch could have been under a lot of pressure walking into bat in a final. You're chasing as well, and that can be so much more pressure because what this team is battling is not just their own stories and their struggles to get this far and their individual challenges, but they're fighting history of South Africa choking when it comes to knockouts, the narrative that their male counterparts set and had to bear. But trust Annika Bosch to not just stay the course but do better. She destroyed her opponents and guided her team with an unbeaten 74. That's the difference in this South African side, that mental strength to make every game count. Whether it was Annika Bosch overcoming her demons or Sinalo Jafta, their wicketkeeper, getting emotional as she spoke about how she overcame an alcohol addiction to now be a part of a team that is learning to rise to the occasion. You see the two sides that faced each other last night. One, a well-oiled machine that knows how to win, made up of strong, successful and confident women, and the other team had women from different parts of a spectrum, whether it is pertaining to race or the socio-economic background, from the most humble beginnings, all coming together to try and do something special. Because winning a World Cup is not easy. Everyone wants it. So to get your hands on it, you have to be the best. Ask the entire country and their male cricketers in particular. No wonder the support just kept pouring in after that win. You see some of the names in that list that you just saw, the tweets that came up, A.B. de Villiers, Graham Smith. Of course, so did Faf du Plessis. He put up his accolades as well. These are star cricketers that have represented South Africa who do not have a World Cup to their name. Imagine all of them cheering on this particular team. So maybe it's apt to wrap this up in South Africa's inspirational, calm leader, Laura Woolward's words. She was brave enough to choose to bowl first and bat. People don't do that in a knockout situation, definitely not South Africa. And she said after that match, tune in to watch. There could be something very special happening for a lot of South Africans to celebrate in the days to come. That's what they'd be hoping for. Grey clouds hover over one of Bangladesh's greatest, Shakib Al Hasan's farewell test, or at least what he hopes to be. Despite being named in Bangladesh's squad for that first test against South Africa at home, the rude news that many woke up to was that Shakib may not even feature in that match that is set to start on the 21st of October. This is no speculation, of course. Shakib himself issued a shocking statement with just a weekend left for that test to begin.
I am not sure where I am going next, but it is almost sure that I am not going home.
So what really happened? Why is Shakib not travelling to Bangladesh, especially when this is the moment he was waiting for? To understand where we are in terms of the developments, we have to go back in time a bit. Shakib announced his shock retirement following the unrest in Bangladesh some months ago. The former captain was named in a murder charge along with 147 others. This during the political unrest that led to the ouster of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Shakib was a member of parliament representing Sheikh Hasina's party, the Awami League. But Shakib had one last wish. He said he wanted to play his last test and at home. And he knew for that to happen, he needed proper security, sanctioned and given by the Bangladesh Cricket Board and the government. It wouldn't have been possible otherwise. Given the backlash Shakib was receiving, the current government asked Shakib to first clear his political stance. So for the sake of his dream farewell, Shakib not only broke his silence on these protests, but also issued an apology for staying quiet all this while. So here's what followed. Once Shakib issued that statement, he was apparently given a green signal by both BCB, the Bangladesh Cricket Board, and the current regime. The stage was set for one of the greatest that Bangladesh has produced to present and be a part of one last showdown in Test cricket. When Shakib was named in that squad for the first test, it was certain that the cricketer would indeed get his dream farewell. But here's when things turned a little sour for the former captain. Despite Shakib reportedly been assured of a safe passage back home, students started protesting as soon as that squad was announced. A local group raised anti-Shakib slogans and have threatened now to stage a protest if Shakib took part in that test against South Africa, basically stepped onto the field. So following the situation, the Bangladeshi government, who reportedly gave assurance to Shakib of safety, asked him not to come back home.
I have advised Shakib not to come to avoid any untoward circumstances. This decision was made to ensure the safety of the player and to protect the country's image. To protect the country's image and safeguard Shakib from any harm. That's what the government's reasoning is, at least this particular official, that's what he says. The same government that guaranteed his safe entry and participation in the tests. So now Shakib, who was set to enter Bangladesh, was travelling from the United States, is currently stuck in transit in the UAE, Dubai. Shakib's concerns are real though. He's worried about his own safety and that of his family. But what's shocking is the U-turn that the government has taken, especially after this statement from another government official came out.
Shakib can return to Bangladesh anytime. It's his decision whether he will arrive here or not.
So here's what you have. The contradicting statements from different voices in the Bangladesh government only reflects the unpreparedness and the uncertainty over Shakib's farewell and his entry back into the country, really. The sports advisor, Asif Mahmood, is dissuading Shakib from flying over, while the chief advisor's deputy press secretary, Asad Majumdar, is claiming that decision is Shakib's to make. I understand fans protesting is not in government's control, but providing ample security to prevent anything untoward from happening, that certainly is. So clearly it all points to a situation that is very difficult for Shakib to navigate, at least at this point. The least the BCB could have done is give Shakib some clarity, because the cricketer is one of the longest serving members of Bangladesh cricket. The least he deserves is a proper farewell. So what does this mean for Shakib? Have we seen him play for the last time for Bangladesh, at least in whites? Was the Kanpur test against India, the one that they lost, Shakib's last in red ball cricket? Shakib may contemplate playing the second test. That's one solution that he has. The one that's going to be held in Chittagong. Dhaka, being the capital city, may experience a little more turbulence. That's the logic. Maybe the second test in Chittagong will be easier to tackle. Logically, that's what you think. Either way, it's surely a risky venture at this stage for Shakib to get what he wants. A farewell test at the home he grew up dreaming big in. And however much his own political ambitions may have made this difficult for him, you cannot help but feel the misfortune that he's caught in. In the quest of cleaning Formula One's image, the governing body, FIA, has imposed restrictions on swearing or the use of any foul language while at Formula One while doing the races. Basically keeping Max Verstappen, as the example, the poster boy for this. FIA is coming down hard and drawing up a diktat that no driver should swear around the circuit. And while FIA is trying to project themselves as the savior of the sport, this has led to severe backlash. It looks like a battle is coming upon us. On one side is the FIA, and they're up against Verstappen plus the rest of the drivers. That community service punishment dealt to Verstappen for swearing at a press conference before the Singapore Grand Prix has not gone down too well. And now with this Schoolmaster Act, the drivers are coming together to stand up to the FIA. In simpler terms, the Drivers' Association is swearing that they won't bow down to the body. Here's a report.
The war between Red Bull and McLaren is heating up. But there is a bigger war on the sidelines of the race, and that is between the FIA and the drivers. FIA is busy schooling Formula One drivers on moral grounds. They have called for a ban on foul language from the sport. Unfortunately, this Schoolmaster Act is not sitting down too well with grown-up drivers. The drivers may be out to get each other during the races, sure, but in this battle they are firmly standing together against the FIA. And leading the charge is Mercedes driver and director of the Grand Prix Drivers Association, George Russell.
We don't want to be taking away the heat of the moment emotions that drivers show during a race. It is down to maybe the broadcaster to choose whether they want to broadcast that. It does seem a little bit silly that it has come to this. We have yet to speak to the FIA, but we hope to do so probably next week.
Russell's statement clearly shows that drivers are united in this. To give you a small backgrounder, the FIA came down hard about swearing after Max Verstappen used foul language in the press conference ahead of the Singapore Grand Prix. And that's not all. He was also punished with community service, something that did not go down too well with the Red Bull driver.
I'm always open for a chat, but from my side at the moment, it's not that I am the one that has to reach out with this stuff, with the situation. I also prefer, of course, to talk less, so it's fine anyway for me.
In fact, the reason why everyone seems to stand by Verstappen in this matter alone is because this is a curb on their right to expression. Someone as senior as Lewis Hamilton, in fact, senses the misguided aim of the FIA in this matter.
I think even for Formula One, they know it wasn't a great look, and they're probably looking at figuring something else out moving forward.
Hamilton clearly says that did not look good even from an FIA standpoint, because this is not a clampdown on Verstappen alone. The FIA is trying to come down on everyone in Formula One, so it was imperative for all the drivers to come together and stand their ground. The timing of all this could not be more interesting, because they have banded together despite their individual differences concerning Red Bull, the car Verstappen helps. Red Bull, in fact, is facing heat from rival teams for using a height adjustment device. The racing team is accused of having a competitive edge before the US Grand Prix in Texas. The FIA, meanwhile, isn't just facing heat from the drivers over punishing Verstappen, but also from fans and former drivers. The reason? The same FIA earned millions from an OTT series about Formula One race. And in the series, it's safe to say the swearing part was not censored. The same FIA did not feel the image of the sport was getting tarnished, or that they were setting the wrong example for kids watching, when they were busy minting money through the same series. Now the FIA wants to play the saint, making Verstappen the prime example. And that is what none of the F1 drivers are ready to fall in line for.
Time for last serve. Now, sports for a purpose can do wonders, like what a group of Colombia Navy divers are hoping to achieve at Gorgona National Natural Park. They're using their diving skills to clean the waters there. Take a look. That wraps up First Sports here today. Have a very good weekend. I'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye.